Somewhere above your head right now, there might be a few hundred kilos of yellow foam, quietly deciding whether your house can ever be sold. Spray foam loft insulation. You've been told it's either a miracle upgrade or instant doom. Both are wrong, and both versions are usually being sold to you by someone with an invoice in their hand. So this is the video I wish every homeowner got shown before anyone climbed into their loft. Everything you actually need to know about spray foam insulation, and by the end, you'll know more about the foam in your loft than the person who sold it, including the one piece of paper that decides whether your house can be sold at all. Stay for that part. It's not what you think. Here's the plan. What this stuff actually is, and why it genuinely works. Why it ended up in 250,000 British lofts. Why mortgage lenders now run from it. Whether your foam is the bad kind. What fixing it really involves, what it costs, and, because this industry has burned people once already, how to make sure you don't get done twice. First, what is it? Spray foam is polyurethane. Two chemicals mixed at the end of a heated gun that react, expand up to 100 times their size in seconds, and set solid wherever they land, and credit where it's due. As an insulator, it's genuinely clever. It doesn't sit on your loft floor like a woolly blanket. It's sprayed on the underside of the roof itself, sealing every gap, every draft, every awkward corner that rolls of fiberglass can't reach. Airtight, snug, done in a day. On paper, what's not to like? That question, what's not to like, is exactly how nearly 250,000 UK homes ended up with it. And it's the right question, because the answer isn't about the foam. It's about what the foam hides. So why is it everywhere? 3 reasons. 1. Energy bills. Foam was sold as the upgrade that pays for itself. 2. The government accidentally supercharged it. Under schemes like the Green Homes Grant, insulation came subsidized. Sales teams could ring pensioners and say the magic words, government-backed. And 3, this is the one nobody says out loud, foam was the perfect product for a certain kind of salesman because of an ugly little trick. If a roof was old and tired, slipping tiles, crumbling felt, the honest fix was expensive. Repair or replace the roof. The cheap trick? Spray foam all over the underside. It glues the whole thing together, stops the rattling, feels solid, and costs a fraction of a re-roof. The customer thinks they've saved $5,000. What they've actually done is hide a dying roof under a permanent yellow blanket. Remember that trick. It explains almost everything that comes next. Let's put the scale on screen. An estimated 250,000 UK homes have spray foam in the loft. When the BBC surveyed lenders in late 2024, around 1 in 4 of the biggest refused foamed roofs outright. And every single equity release lender they asked said no. Most of the rest demand specialist reports before they'll lend. Press and surveyor reports suggest affected homes can sell for 10 to 20% below market, when they sell at all. And in March 2025, the government confirmed there is no financial help coming for removal, a product pushed with public money that the public now has to pay to undo. So how did a legal working insulation product become a lending red flag? Here's the part most videos get wrong. The surveyor who visits before a mortgage is approved isn't saying your roof is rotten. He's saying something worse for you. He can't see. The foam covers every timber he's paid to inspect. He cannot poke it, moisture check it, or even look at it. And in mortgage lending, cannot inspect doesn't mean probably fine. It means unknown risk. Unknown risk means no. That's the whole mortgage problem in one sentence. The foam doesn't have to be doing any damage for it to sink a sail. It just has to be in the way. But, and here's where it gets uncomfortable, sometimes it is doing damage. And to understand whether yours might be, you need one diagram. Picture your roof from the side, warm, damp air from your kitchen, your shower, your breathing. It rises. It always has. In a normal loft, it drifts up through the tiles and ventilation gaps and out. Now spray a thick foam layer under the roof. Somewhere inside that foam, there's a line where warm inside air meets cold outside air. Physics does what physics does. The moisture in that warm air condenses water. And depending on the foam and the roof, that water can end up sitting exactly where you least want it, against the timber rafters. Wet timber, no airflow, no drying, year after year. That's the rot mechanism. And the cruel twist, the foam that might be causing it, is the same foam stopping anyone from seeing it. Damage and blindfold, one product. Now, is your foam doing that? Honest answer, it depends, and anyone who says otherwise from your driveway is guessing. There are two very different foams. Open cell is the softer, spongier one. It stays slightly breathable, lets water vapor pass, and on a sound, well-ventilated roof, a proper open cell install can sit there for years doing exactly what it promised. Closed cell is the rigid, dense one. A vapor barrier that sets like rock, grips the roof, and traps whatever moisture gets behind it. It's the riskier one on old timber roofs, and it's also the harder one to remove. And honestly, the install matters as much as the foam. The ventilation gap, the type of felt behind it, whether a vapor layer went in, get those right, and even the government's own modeling puts the rot risk under 1%. Get them wrong. Open cell, no gap, sealed against old bitumen felt, and the same modeling's worst case has a quarter of the timber rotting within 5 years. Same product. The difference is entirely in the workmanship. So no, this isn't a horror film where all foam is evil. Even the government has said a correctly installed, properly documented install shouldn't need removing. That's the honest steelman. The problem is that correct and documented is precisely what the knackered roof trick wasn't. When the Property Care Association inspected over 500 foamed roofs, roughly a third showed installation defects in that sample. And from below, with the foam in place, you often can't tell which one you've got. Before we go further, want to know which one is above your head right now? Grab a torch, stick your head through the loft hatch, and try this. Press a finger into the foam, somewhere unobtrusive. If it gives like a stale marshmallow and springs most of the way back, that's open cell, the softer, more breathable one. If it's hard, like pressing a worktop, and your finger makes no dent at all, that's closed cell, the rigid vapor barrier one. Color is a rough clue too. Open cell often looks paler and puffier, closed cell denser and smoother, though age and brand muddy that. While you're up there, look, don't touch, for 3 things. Dark staining on any timber you can see, daylight where there shouldn't be daylight, and foam sprayed directly onto the underside of tiles with no felt behind it. That last one is the worst starting hand, because there's nothing protecting the timber and nothing separating foam from roof. None of this replaces a proper assessment. But 10 minutes with a torch means that when someone quotes you, you'll already know if they're describing your actual loft or reading from a script. Which brings us to the question you actually came for. Do you have to rip it out? Here's the honest sequence. If you're not selling, not remortgaging, and the roof was sound when it was sprayed, you may have time to breathe. Nothing about foam demands panic today. If you are selling or remortgaging, the maths usually forces the issue, because even sound foam fails the can't inspect test. But either way, the first move is never the skip and the scraper. The first move is an independent assessment. Someone with no stake in the answer telling you what foam you have, what state the roof's in, and what a lender would accept. Not the installer's mate, not a remover's free survey that miraculously always concludes, "Rip it all out, mate. That'll be 9 grand. Independent, first, always. Say, it does need to come out. And for a sale, it usually does. Here's what good removal actually looks like, so you can recognize it. It's manual, careful, and slow. The foam is stripped from every rafter without gouging the timber and without shredding the roofing felt behind it. Tear that felt, and your few £1,000 removal quietly becomes a re-roof. As a rough guide, and be aware most published figures come from the removal industry itself, whole loft removal typically lands somewhere between £2,000 and £10,000, depending on foam type, thickness, and access, over a 2 to 5 day job. Anyone quoting a suspiciously tiny number found their saving somewhere, usually in the care, the insurance, or the paperwork. And the paperwork, as you're about to see, is the entire point. Let me walk you through what removal day should actually look like so you can picture it and police it. Morning 1. Dust sheets down, loft boarded for safe footing, lights rigged, and the crew in proper masks. Cured foam is generally considered inert, but stripping it throws fine dust. Nobody should be breathing all day, and your loft is their workplace at height. Then it's genuinely unglamorous. Hand tools and patience, panel by panel, rafter by rafter. The foam comes off in chunks and crumbs. Expect a small mountain of bags. It goes as construction waste, not your green bin. What you should see as it progresses, clean timber emerging, felt intact behind it, and, if they're any good, them photographing each section as it's exposed. That photo trail becomes evidence for the surveyor. What you should not see: power tools chewing along the rafter line, torn felt flapping, or scorch marks from anyone trying to melt the job faster. Day 2 to 5, depending on the loft, the last residue is scraped back, the space is vacuumed down, and the timbers sit ready for inspection, which, remember, is done by someone else. One more thing nobody tells you: the foam was your insulation. Rip it out and do nothing, and congratulations, you've got a beautifully mortgageable freezer. A good plan replaces it the boring, lender-friendly way: standard mineral wool laid on the loft floor at current recommended depths. Ventilation gaps reopened so the roof can breathe again. Pipes and tanks lagged. It's cheap, it's invisible to a surveyor's risk list, and it actually restores the loft to how the house was designed to work. Cold roof, warm rooms. Budget it into the job from day 1, so there's no gap between foam gone and house insulated. Because here's the reframe this industry deserves: the scandal didn't end. It changed uniform. The same unregulated, commission-hungry energy that missold foam into your loft is now, in some corners, selling the removal. This isn't me being dramatic. Trading standards teams around the UK have issued warnings about cold callers pressuring homeowners, often elderly, into removals they may not have needed at all, with victims reported paying £9,000 to £13,000. One firm even falsely claimed to be working with trading standards. The red flags to watch: cold callers who happen to be in the area, pressure to sign today, quotes that swing wildly with no written breakdown, no insurance they'll show you. And the big one, a company that inspects the foam, condemns the foam, and removes the foam, all by itself. That's the fox surveying the henhouse. You vet a remover like you'd vet a builder. Written fixed quote, proof of insurance, references, and a clear statement of the standard. Every rafter clean, felt intact, photos of the bare timbers when it's done. And now, the piece of paper. After removal, what your buyer's lender actually wants is independent proof, typically a post-removal inspection by a qualified, independent surveyor confirming the foam is fully gone and the roof timbers are sound. That certificate is what turns unknown risk back into yes. Now the trap. Some removal firms hand you their own glossy certificate, signed by themselves. A self-issued certificate is the remover marking their own homework and lenders bin it. If you remember one thing from this entire video, make it this: the certificate is the product. The foam coming out is just how you earn it. So here's the whole video on one card. The order. 1. Independent assessment before anyone touches anything. 2. A vetted remover, written fixed quote, insured, no damage standard. 3. Independent certificate from a qualified surveyor, not the remover. 4. The lender says yes, and your house is just a house again. Foam isn't the disaster. Doing these in the wrong order is the disaster. Before we close, 30 seconds of myth demolition, because these 5 come up under every foam video. Myth 1. All spray foam causes rot. No, the risk depends on foam type, roof condition, and ventilation. Plenty of installs are sitting there behaving. The mortgage problem exists anyway, which is a different problem. Myth 2. It can't be removed without replacing the roof. Wrong way round. Careful removal exists precisely to avoid a re-roof. It's careless removal that causes one. Myth 3. A coating or paint over fixes it for lenders. No lender on record accepts painting over the thing they can't inspect. Myth 4. The council or government will pay to sort it. Confirmed no. March 2025, no assistance scheme. It's on the homeowner, which is exactly why not overpaying matters. Myth 5. Foam adds value because it's insulation. The market data says the opposite. Press and surveyor reports put foamed homes at a 10 to 20% discount because buyers price in the faff. Insulation adds value. Un-inspectable insulation subtracts it. Quick word to 2 special cases. Buying a house with foam? Don't run. Negotiate. Get your own survey, price the removal, and make it the seller's problem before exchange. And if you were missold, told it was government approved, pressured, never warned about mortgages, keep every scrap of paperwork. It matters. Spray foam didn't make 250,000 houses unsellable. Not knowing what to do about it did. And now, you know. If you're new here, welcome. This channel exists to give UK homeowners the honest version of the spray foam story, with no invoice in our hand for the scary bits. If that's useful, subscribe. Next up, should you buy a house that already has spray foam, including how to turn it into a discount? If you'd like our one-page remover vetting checklist, the 6 questions, the red flags, the certificate rule, comment the word checklist. And if you want the shortcut, finding and vetting trusted removal companies is literally what we do. Free at sprayfoamremovaladvice.co.uk. The link's below. Thanks for watching.